Welcome to The Father's Heart with Tom Clark, better known as Papa Tom.
Good morning, this is Papa Tom, and I have with me Gene Ho from now Hot Springs, Arkansas. I used to be in New York, a former New Yorker. Actually, we shared some things about our backgrounds, and both of us are originated from New York. Both of us were from Brooklyn, and later on he lived in Long Island, and so did I. But today, at this time, he's in Hot Springs, Arkansas, and he's moved out. You know, many people have moved out of New York. It's amazing to me how many people I've known that are here in North Carolina, they're down in Florida.
Oh, I love living where I am. It's beautiful. Just down the road from the great governor, Mike Huckabee, and of course, his daughter is now our current governor. So it's a wonderful place, and it's a beautiful place, and very peaceful, and a nice place for my children to grow up.
Well, that's great to hear that. And I know you spent a lot of time on the Reawaken America tour with Clay Clark, right? So that's a nice place to launch from, because he's all over the map.
Yeah, I this is now 3 years on the road, and then with Clay Clark, I've been on the tour since it began. So it was kind of convenient traveling around the United States from a more central location. It's wonderful.
Well, how does that affect your relationship, or I should say your not work relationship, but your working environment with George Magazine?
Nowadays with the Reawaken tour, it's coming to a close now that we're getting closer to the election.
Mm-hmm.
So I have been traveling a lot with that. George Magazine has been very, very, how can I say this, accommodating whenever I travel. They know that that's part of the promotion of what I do. So I've been on the road for a very, very long time, but at the same time, I still at the time had a lot of chance to spend with my family. My children are homeschooled, so we get a chance to spend a lot of time with them. And we love where we are now, very much so.
Well, that's great. Since we're on the Father's Heart talk show, we've been talking in our conversations so far, we've been talking about Donald Trump, but in the Reawaken America tour, you meet a lot of patriotic people, obviously. And that word patriot comes from the Latin word pater, P-A-T-E-R. Pater means father. So anyone who is patriotic or a patriot is actually following a thinking process like a father would. Like the founding fathers of America were patriots. People with a father's heart were patriots. Most people don't catch that.
Well, I could tell you this, the people that I have met on the Reawaken America tour, they have been like family to me. After a while, you get a chance to meet a lot of the speakers and get used to seeing them there. And it is wonderful. It's like a family, but not only that, it's also the people that go there. I'm telling you, I can't even tell you the amount of times that people have come up to me and my family and said prayers for us. And there's a wonderful brotherhood in this nation, and I think that's what we're going to see as our main thing in this country in the next year or so, is more people coming together and more people realizing that and becoming more, how can I say this, united in our America.
It seemed like January 6th type people.
The thing is, it's I know that there was a lot of bad things that happened. At the same time, I mean, a lot of the patriots are very much misunderstood people. They want what's best for the country. And so what we've been trying to do at George Magazine is to try to get people to understand each other, try to get people to stop hating each other. And that means people on the right and the left. If we could just understand each other. I'll give you a great story with that. We interviewed a great man, Hall of Fame football player, Terrell Owens. And he's a Christian man. But in the article, he was talking in support of Kaepernick. And I get it. The football player, and many people on the MAGA side or the conservative side don't like Colin Kaepernick. But I will say, in understanding of the other side, here's a man that believed it. Granted, it's not what I believe. I believe in standing for the flag. But Kaepernick put all his celebrity to the test. He put his economic power to the test and put it in front of it and lost a lot for what he believes. It's not the same thing I believe.
Sure.
But at least I can respect him for putting his money where his mouth is, which is not a bad thing to do, even though I don't agree with it or the principle of what he was doing, I can respect him in that sense.
One of the founding fathers of America, his name is Thomas Paine, once said, I may not believe in what you believe, but I'll fight to the death for your right to say it. And he was
That,
totally in favor of freedom of
that's
speech.
that's beautiful, and I think that's what we need in America, where we could. I tell people all the time, for America to be united doesn't mean that 100% of us vote for Donald Trump.
Mm.
It means that you vote for who you feel comfortable voting for, and then at the end, if you're in the minority, you say, okay, you know what, that is what the people's will has spoken. And I know there's distrust with the, if you could say, with the electoral process, but I believe all these things are going to be worked out, and I believe America's best days are still ahead of us.
I believe that too. And I want to bring out, now that you mentioned it, I'm started thinking about people expressing themselves and Colin Kaepernick speaking something that you didn't agree with, but at the same time, you you support him like Terrell Owens supports him in the perspective of his right to say it.
Right.
One of the things that evil tries to do, because we're in a war right now, it's a psyops war, and evil tries to promote fear, and fear is trying, and they censor people from saying what they want to believe. They want to take away our freedom from speech, which is our First Amendment right. Hidden in our founding fathers' purpose for America and the election, and we're not really familiar with this, but I'm actually in the beginning parts of starting a movement here out of North Carolina, going across the country, called the secret ballot movement. And there's such a thing as the secret ballot. Now, subconsciously, in the theater of the mind, evil tries to make people afraid that they're afraid to say who they voted for. How many people are afraid to say that they voted for Donald Trump or whoever they voted for? And the media tries to make people think that if you vote for somebody that they're not supposed to vote for, right, then somehow somebody will find out and the government will go after you. So you find a certain subconscious, subliminal fear being promoted on people subconsciously. And this fear is that they're going to find out who you vote for. That's a lie. That's not true. The 65% of eligible voters don't even register to vote. And they don't register to vote because they had to put their name in and address who they are. Now, when they do register, they could say, I'm a Republican, I'm a Democrat, I'm unaffiliated, maybe I'm an independent. Let's say there's 4 different choices. They'll know what that is by the registration. But when you actually go into the ballot box and you deliver your ballot, it's a physical ballot, and you put that physical ballot, your name is not on the ballot. So they don't know who you voted for. So people can go out and say they're unaffiliated, and then at that point they can't determine who they're likely to vote for. But when they actually put the vote in, their name is not on it, so they cannot be found. That's the beauty and the power, the underlying power of the secret ballot, is it gives people the freedom to know, or to realize and be comfortable that they're not going to find out who they vote for. So you can vote for who you want to vote for. You can really express, and unless you tell somebody who voted for, they won't know. You see what I'm saying? But the key,
No,
the key is not to be afraid.
no, you know what? Very interesting. We're talking about this because really quickly, you think about the Iowa caucus. And so our managing editor lives in Iowa and she's part of that caucus. That is an interesting process because when you're voting, at least in the primary there in the caucus, you actually physically walk into the room where you're going to go to cast your vote.
Yes.
And so it's very public and everyone can see it. And I asked her, I said, oh my goodness, I said to them, don't people get like bullied? Like if your boss is standing in one corner and it's like, oh, I got to please my boss, I got to go there. She said that, and maybe it's unique to the people in Iowa that they're really that nice and they're really reasonable. But she says no, for some reason it doesn't happen that way. People understand there when they vote. Hey, these are people with different opinions. We're still Republicans. That's what they say on their side. But like, if we could get to the point in America where we could say, listen, we're all Americans. Okay, so I think Donald Trump is the best, or whatever, Kennedy. But if someone else says something else, I mean, we need to go back in America to the point where it's like, okay, we have different opinions. Let's start there.
Mhm.
We will all disagree some way,
Mhm.
and then move on from there.
The key here, again, and part of my show is really designed to help people overcome fear, whether it's political or not. Politics involved, invades every part of our life. But in the reality in which we walk through our life, we're supposed to overcome. God wants us to overcome fear, and He wants us to be free. A free people that overcomes fear. People who are afraid are not free. So overcoming fear is critical. It's essential to how we should live our lives, how God wants us to live our lives. And the enemy of our souls wants us to be afraid so that they can bully us and they can move us into certain directions because they're causing us to be afraid.
Oh, you know what? I don't think that's something I could quickly disagree with. I really think that what holds back a lot of people in America is just it's that fear.
Mm.
And that's why I look at Donald Trump and it's like, okay, you know what? He's going to say what he feels without worrying about what other people think about him. Granted, you go look back at it and some people say, oh, well, that's a little crass or whatever. But wow, you know what? What an interesting concept that, hey, people have differing opinions and you say what you want to say. And then, we rather than, which is interesting, going back to that time where it was, how can I say this, in vogue to be part of what we call the silent majority, where people were so afraid.
Right.
What we see now is people are not afraid. I'm telling you, I see people all the time, even in California. If they want to wear the MAGA hat to the restaurants, they'll wear the MAGA hat.
Really?
And so I think we're really changing the way people think in America.
Well, I think Donald Trump is an example of that. One of the reasons why people like him is the guy's not afraid. Fearless.
Very, very interesting concept. I love it.
We're back with Gene Ho. And as editor-in-chief, I started asking him the question about overcoming fear in America and how the media, when properly used, can help people overcome fear. And so I asking him the question, Gene, what is George Magazine doing to help people in America overcome fear in the articles that you present?
Well, very interesting. Very interesting. We not only have George Magazine, but we have a companion magazine called George Jr. And that's for children, I would say probably like 7 to 13, 12 or 13. Even my son's 13, he reads it all the time. But you know what? One of the things that we have done with this is we have shared Bible stories in the children's magazine, basically taking stories from the Bible and say, listen, you know what? That's one of the main themes of the Bible is not to have fear. And then we'll have different people that we have featured from Bible characters in the magazine. And I think it starts too with the younger generation. And so we made it a point to share those stories. But ultimately speaking, what we're trying to do with George Magazine is trying to dismiss that fear. So we've had articles on anxiety and fear and basically get back to an America where, hey, you know what? We don't have to be afraid of our faith or what we believe. There was a time there, I believe America was very much like that. They would that's the silent majority. But I don't think it's like that anymore. I think we've gotten to the point in America, people are like, okay, well, this is what I feel. These are my principles, and there it is, right there on the table. So I think we're getting there in America.
The David and Goliath story, which is a classic story in children's Bible stories, is a key example, a primary example of somebody overcoming fear. You have David, who's a little guy, he's a teenager, right? Going up this huge 10-foot, 12-foot tall giant, right? Goliath is the epitome of somebody you're supposed to be afraid of. And there's tens of thousands of troops that are Israel's troops are afraid of Goliath. And this teenager comes out and is not afraid of Goliath. And the only reason why he's not afraid of Goliath is because he knows God's with him. And
that's the most amazing thing. I mean, the bravado or the way we walk, we found out is not based upon what we do, and we are marching on fearless at George is because we really do feel like we're doing God's will here. We have a lot of Bible stories in there about. We have a person named Pastor Bob Joyce who writes a monthly column with his sermons. And
Mm-hmm.
what we're doing is we're using a secular magazine that talks about politics and pop culture to get that message all over the world. And so, because of that, we have this great, I won't say properly like a bravado, but we really feel confident in what we're doing.
Mm-hmm.
Despite all that's going on today, we're going to speak truth.
That's interesting. I'm glad I asked the question. I have another question for you. Why did you name, well, you didn't name it, but why was the magazine, George Magazine, named George?
This is a great question. I believe the only person that knows that is JFK Jr. himself, but I do
So why don't you go ask him?
Yes, look at that. He's got me touching my nose. No, okay. I think it's very much like a musical artist that makes a song, and the song means something particular to that person that wrote it or sang it. But a lot of artists they like, I could say this, a person to find themselves in the music that they write. So it might mean something else for someone else, a song written. But it's interesting because George can mean a lot of things, and a lot of people find their own meaning in it, and not necessarily it's wrong.
Mm-hmm. I think I told you my thought of it was that it was named after George Washington.
See, good one. There, that's a good. There's a good guess there.
Well, the reason why it was written for George Washington, from my point of view, as I'm looking at the painting, if you will, or you're looking at the magazine, then the name on the magazine is that George Washington, everybody accepts that George Washington was the father of America. In 1776, America was born. Some people believe in 1871 it was taken away from us. But other people believe in 2024 we're going to have the rebirth of America. So I actually see three fathers in America: George Washington, Abraham Lincoln, and Donald J. Trump. And they each came at a time in history when America needed a leader that had a father's heart. George Washington had a father's heart. Abraham Lincoln had a father's heart to free the slaves. And Donald J. Trump has a father's heart to free America from the globalists, the Kabbalists, the deep state that is trying to run the country from an elitist perspective against what our founding fathers wanted, which was we the people, and to take our freedom away from us. We need to get our freedom back, and it's in a father's heart to bring our freedom back. And that's what I believe is why George Magazine is made for a time like this, because it's sharing the father's heart.
I fully agree with it. I mean, let's think about what Donald Trump has done for us. I mean, it really is like a father. Nothing more that you could want from your child is for them to grow up, to have the same values as you do. But I remember back in 2015 when I first started taking pictures with Trump, he was the one standing in the forefront with everyone, and everyone stood behind him and just watched him do his thing. Look at how we as a nation have grown, like how really how proud we could be as a nation to have us to be able to stand up for what we believe, speak truth, and quite frankly, not be afraid of doing it. And that's what, I mean, we've all become kind of, in many ways, mini Donald Trumps in a sense that, hey, you know what? This is what I believe. These are my values. It might not be you might criticize these Christian values or that values, but these are my values, and I'm not afraid to speak it. And so that's what we're trying to also mimic at George. That, hey, you know what? We're gonna give you the information out there, and we're gonna let people decide for themselves whether they like the people we feature or not like them, or learn to love them, or at least learn to understand them. And that's what we're trying to do with George Magazine.
What's your circulation now?
Let's see. I do not know the exact number of the printed ones, but I could tell you that all over the how can I say, the world, we get tons of, how can I say this, hits or whatever on our website. Just to give you an idea, just my TikToks alone, just my social media presence, at the very least is like 1 million million views I'm getting a week, or just shy of
Wow.
1 million views. That's not including the shares. So the actual reach, I do know that we're in just about every country, I believe, except for two. Two countries do not allow us to operate in it, but it's all over the world. And but my main interest is to have America united. I want
Sure.
people to understand the people on the left and the people on the right.
How do people, I mean, in today's world, the printed copy of the magazine will not have anywhere near the circulation that the digital copy of the magazine will have. So how do people get in touch with or view the digital magazine?
And Papa Tom, thank you so much. It's very simple. If you just go to georgemagazine.com. So georgemagazine.com, you can go there and check everything out. And it's like I said, I really feel we are doing the great work of, or following in the footsteps of Jesus. We're really trying to get people united in America. That is the main thing that we're trying to do, is to unite Americans.
I might have to write an article for the magazine
I think you should,
about the
because
Father's
we
heart
need.
overcoming fear.
I'm telling you, that's what we need to do. We need more of that. We need shows like this, and we need people that have the same viewpoint. And what better way than understanding that really what we have done in America is we're trying to be fathers, trying to raise up our children to have good, solid, conservative values. And I get it; not all people want that in America.
Mhm.
But with a sense of understanding of each other, I think we can make a better America. And I honestly do believe our better times are ahead for us.
I mean, I'll go so far as to say this, that I think that the leadership, much of the leadership in America today, the top leadership, are actually Satanists. I'll go so far as to say that, with the intention of destroying America that our founding fathers built. And it's a pretty bold statement, but it's destruction of the America the way our founding fathers had given it to us is their intent. Everything they do with their policies, from the border, everything that they're coming up with, is a destruction of America, the economy, so on and so forth. And that's why we need leadership in America that does love America and does love the people and understands government is there to serve the people, not the people to try to serve the government.
Right. And really quick, Tom, Papa Tom, with this is interesting, because what you have in America is you have people that put themselves out there to do and represent the people. They are destroyed in the media. I mean, you get to see what they're doing to Donald Trump.
Sure.
But I believe that what's going to happen in America is people are tired of that, and the grip of mainstream media is going to change, because mainstream media likes to tell people what to believe. In exchange for that, George Magazine is like saying, we have biases, but here's the information. Make your own conclusion and your own judgment based upon what you read. But we're not going to dictate, even though, I mean, I have very strong biases
Sure.
on certain things, but we at George are not going to try to convince you otherwise. We're going to put the information out there and let people decide for themselves. And I think that's what's going on in America, because I think mainstream media has attacked many good people
Sure.
that try to run. I mean, Donald Trump's an example.
You know, God has a plan, and nothing that's happened has missed him. He knew it was going to happen all along. And he prophesied by probably the greatest prophet America's had in the last 50 years, Kim Clement, that he was going to use a stone. And his daughter brought this out. And
Yeah,
that stone, I believe, is Roger Stone. And I believe
yeah,
the weapon in
yeah,
Roger Stone's hand is the secret ballot, because it will help people overcome fear. The people who are afraid overcome. Some people who are not afraid, fine.